Hello, Raleigh. This is citizen reporter Robert Courts coming to you from the Your Backyard Raleigh News Network. And unfortunately, I have a heavy story today because in our local election, there is someone handing out fake slate cards, and a slate card is an endorsement card. But I have assembled a bipartisan team of local candidates that will discuss and edify us today. So I'd like to thank all of y'all for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
With me is mayoral candidate Paul Fitz, Republican, at-large candidate James Bledsoe, Republican.
Unaffiliated.
Independent, my apologies. District D candidate Christina Jones and Jane Harrison from District D. Thank you all for joining me.
Good to be with you, Robert.
So, Raleigh, what's going on is some individual or individuals, again, are interfering with our election by passing out blatantly false and misleading slate cards at election sites to try to fool the public into voting for candidates that they prefer and not truly endorsed or the proper candidates. And I'd like to ask each of you, starting with you, Mr. Fitz, what was your initial reaction to hearing about this?
Thanks, Robert. It was shock, actually. One of the things that I think that we talk about on the campaign trail, we all want transparency. We all want to be honest. Our opinions may differ in what we believe, but I still think honesty is one of the most important things that we can convey when we're giving our messages. And seeing this slate being passed out, it just smacked people in the face. It was, hey, you're not intelligent enough to make your own decision, so we're going to tell you who these candidates are that you should be voting for. It was shocking to me to see it. So. Mr.
Bledsoe, would you like to respond?
Certainly, it was. My first reaction was definitely not PG-13 rated when I saw it. Then when I started getting more information, and props to Christina Jones here for making it better known. Whoever's doing this is certainly throwing out some just really poor information out into the ether, and it's really throwing a wedge even into the Democratic Party and even the Republican Party, and you just can't have that in upcoming election.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yeah, so I've been endorsed by the Wake County Democratic Party now, 2 election cycles in a row, and I'm really proud of that. We go through a rigorous interview process. I answer survey questions, and so I expect to see myself on a Democratic Party slate. I did not expect to see myself on the Republican Party slate, and all of a sudden there is my name and my picture on both the blue and the red slate card, which is totally false. So what happened was some candidates were used across the board, regardless of whether they had been endorsed by that particular party. And so that kind of falsehood is really detrimental for democracy. That erodes trust, and it's something that we cannot have stand in Raleigh.
Absolutely. Councilmember Jones?
Yeah, I feel this was a really busy weekend. I got the message from a poll worker from a different campaign on Friday night, and he was sending it to me because I had been removed. So I am also twice Democratic Party endorsed nominee or endorsed candidate. And when this came out, it looked like it was the Democratic Party, and me and Tolulope Omokaye, who's running in District C, were switched out for one of our opponents. And so the initial shock of that is, oh my God, yeah, that's not fair. That's not nice at all. But then I realized that there was a Republican one, and I was like, wait. So I looked at the candidates, and they were all the same. They were the same slate of counselors outside of the mayor, which was changed from Janet Cowell to Paul Fitz. And then everything else was Democrats. And immediately struck me as, well, that's not fair at all, because we all want fair elections. That's
Correct.
what we want to make sure that when we win, we know that we're doing it because all honesty and truth is out there, as we've been talking about. And so I was frustrated. But I called Paul right away and interrupted his anniversary night. So again, I apologize.
Okay.
But he took the call, and I wanted to make it known and make him understand that this was not the Democratic Party. We did not do this. This was outside, the next day when I decided, no, I'm going to go to the polls, and it was right there the second I walked up, I was like, who is sending you? And they wouldn't tell me, so didn't push it any further. So I don't know who's behind this, but I wanted them to know the same thing I did on Saturday. I went straight to the Republican tent and I said, I come in peace. I promise. I just want to tell you I'm so bad. And they hadn't realized it because they said, oh my God, people were passing with red cards saying I have one. And they were just going in. And I said, right, but we got to look at it because look, these are all Democrats. So anyone who took this, who was a Republican, will go in and vote for Democrats. And that's just not fair. And so then we got, we were able to get them removed after that. But it's been a crazy weekend of just shenanigans.
Well, candidate Bledsoe, I'd like to start with you on this next question, please. What do you feel are the potential impacts to the election from this kind of false narrative?
Well, speaking from the unaffiliated side, I'm running against. I am on the GOP ballot, but I'm not on the Democratic ballot because Democrats don't endorse unaffiliated. I understand that's in their bylaw, so I can't hold them against them. But I am endorsed by every other party in this state. So when the Republican ballot, or when I saw the Republican slate come out, I'm like, wait a minute, why is Jonathan Melton on here? Why is Stormy on here? Did some weird magic occur? And as soon as I saw this, I was like, okay, that's really going to upset a lot of folks that are getting this slate thinking, oh, well, these are Republicans. Let's vote for them. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that will just take that voter guide and go look at it and follow it right down. Sure, they're going to be voting for Republicans above Paul. But when it comes down to the at-large candidates in the districts, this is really going to hurt Christina, Jane, myself, anybody actually that's running in the districts for the at-large.
Councilmember Harrison, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, so when folks are, voting, they often have a sense of who they're coming in for, for president or for governor. And once you get to the back of the ballot, which is where you see Raleigh City Council, we are nonpartisan. So it is not going to have a D or an R or any other letter behind our name. And so this is why this is particularly insidious. It is trying to steer people in a direction where they're not going to have that kind of evidence, right there on their ballot. And so, I really, appreciate that the Wake County Democratic Party is out there at the early voting sites providing the correct information of who's endorsed. I do believe the GOP does that for their endorsed candidates. And to have somebody out there, paying to have these fake slate cards printed up, to me, that has to be illegal. And I really want to ensure that this never happens again and that whatever penalties are possible for, this kind of act, that they are pursued.
Councilmember Jones?
Yeah, this it's unacceptable for a civilized democracy. We're here trying to make sure that whichever side, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, that we're rowing in the same direction and that we all have the same goals. And so this is really unfortunate that this has happened. In addition, that we don't understand who it is, because on each piece of literature, you need to have the committee that purchased that for you. And on the back of here, it says paid by NCCAC, and that isn't even an established committee. So there's so much falsehoods coming out that this really needs to be noted and recognized so that voters can trust the system as we go on the very big election.
Yeah.
Candidate Fitz, anything you would like to add?
Well, deep down, I know that Stormy and Jonathan and Mitch and all of them want to be Republicans. I get it. And they're, now they're listed on that slate. And it's at this point, it's okay to have a little levity about it. But I think the seriousness is still the same. None of us want our names. We don't want our stamps on anything considered to be nefarious or illegal or even any kind of chicanery in general. We really want our messages to be as well thought out and given as possible. We want those messages brought to the people that we're trying to teach those people to, and then at the same time, we all have this same need and want to serve in the right way. And when this comes up, when something like this happens, it really just puts a stain on the election, no matter who wins at this point. And And I don't really want to see that regardless of who the winner is in this race. I want everybody to know that they put their best foot forward, that they had the best teams out there working for them. Win, lose, or draw, these are the people that I'm on this Zoom call right now are people I'll probably be working with. So therefore, it's a matter of knowing that we communicated properly to start with, that we were totally denouncing this in the beginning, and I think we're all on board. We want to see it prosecuted if we find the people who are involved too.
Well, I appreciate that. I would like to reiterate what you said. I really appreciate each and one of y'all standing up for honest, clear, transparent elections. After the elections, we're all still neighbors. We're all still fellow citizens. And whether you're on the council or you're just a citizen like me, this kind of chicanery is very toxic and has long-term effects. I took a moment to access Google, and I'll just read that under North Carolina election law, any false representation designed to confuse voters or mislead them about endorsements, affiliation, or candidate support is subject to legal penalties. If found guilty, those responsible can face both civil and criminal penalties, including fines and potentially imprisonment. So that's how serious it is. But I'd like to change the conversation a little bit. I think most impacted by this are you, but then the second is just the average citizen, right? If I can't make the decision that I want to make based on my values, then I'm ready put out by that.
Yeah.
Councilmember Harrison, would you like to speak to that or anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think we expect this kind of crap on social media. Unfortunately, these days, there's a lot of ways for false information to spread quickly on, Facebook or TikTok or wherever on the internet. I don't expect it, in person in front of my polling locations. These are personal places for me. This is where we are doing our work of democracy. And so to have folks out there in person giving out fake Slate cards, it's just, I don't want to ever see that. Not again.
Councilmember Jones, anything to add?
No, I completely agree with everything everyone has said. And I just hope that this never happens again, and hopefully we can get rules in place, although there are. So I just want to make sure that we all know when to exercise those rules. And this is definitely one of those times.
Candidate Bledsoe?
I'm in full agreement, and I hope that the Board of Election undertakes a full investigation in this matter, because we already see the people that are passing it out, so they know who gave them the cards. And I mean, there's a chain of command on this, and I want to be able to beat my opponents in a fair and square election.
Yep.
And if any flag comes out, I want it to come directly from me, not from some cabal.
Right. It's the cornerstone of safe and good elections. It's how our process works. Candidate Fitz, last word on this particular aspect?
Well, how about this? I mean, how did you think that you would have a Sunday night when you have an unaffiliated, a Republican, and two Democrats who are currently serving on the council? We're all in agreement. Hey, how about that? It can actually happen, right? Yeah, yeah.
Let me answer that, Mr. Fitz. This is the silver lining in this whole thing, is that the citizen servants who are standing up to run a candidacy, to try to be and serve on the council, it does my heart good, right? Everyone on here has a history of service. Mr. Bledsoe won in the military. So the fact that we all agree that the system is sacred does bring me a little bit of hope and encouragement.
Yeah, I agree.
Lastly, on our last questions, and I'm going to start with you, Councilmember Jones. What do you recommend to my audience they do should they encounter this again? What can we do as a citizenry to combat this kind of dirty deeds?
Thank you. I do think if we see these cards, they're red and blue, small cards. I wish I had a picture of them. I don't have them physically with me now. But if you do see those, please go directly to any poll worker, but where if you feel comfortable with the Democrat or the Republican slate, they will contact a poll watcher, and that poll watcher, that's their job to help facilitate and remove any of that. So as Mr. Bledsoe had mentioned earlier, that if this happens in the future like it did today, they will be removed from the site. So be vigilant and make sure that if you see something, say something.
Mr. Bledsoe, anything to add to that?
Certainly. I mean, we're all on a lot of different voter cards, but if any of your audience really wants to get to the bottom of this, I mean, like Ms. Jones said, please notify a poll worker, but also go directly to your party or your preferred party's booth directly. Go to the Democratic booth, go to the Republican booth. They're at every single EV site, and if they're not there, please just go to the closest person that's there.
Candidate Fitz?
I'll go further. I think if we contact the sheriff's department when we see this in action, maybe they can come by and try to get to the bottom of it through an investigation by finding out if these individuals handing out the cards are willing to at least name names for the persons who put them up to this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's great that we involve our parties and we involve the poll watchers. But if there's an investigation, we're going to have to get involved.
And lastly, Councilmember Harrison?
Yeah, I'll say ditto to everything I heard. Let your poll workers know, let your party know. You can call RPD as well, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
Amen.
Well, everyone on here today, let me thank you for taking the time on a Sunday evening to stand up for honest, transparent election. It is the cornerstone of democracy. And let me end by saying, Raleigh, there's some shenanigans going on there. Keep your eye out, keep your phone ready, and stand up for what's right. Thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate your time and
Thank you.
attention.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
Yep.